Me again. So good to be with you today. I'm looking forward to about a half hour from now when the service is over, not because it's going to be over, but because some people might be showing up for service. They might not have got the memo, but you're here, so thank you. Anybody here tired? Of course you are. And it has nothing to do with the fact that you lost an hour of sleep. It is exhausting being a person of peace when we are perpetually at war. Now, today, we're going to talk about what it means to hold, to cultivate, to work for peace. And we're going to use initially a little bit of religious language. I know all of us didn't grow up in a faith tradition, and many of us are not people of a religious system or faith tradition right now. But I was raised in the Catholic Church. And Joe, you want to put the slide up if you can? Thank you. So I was raised in the Catholic Church, and we had the teaching of Jesus that said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." And we also said the prayer of St. Francis, which was, "Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me." And I was a smart classic rock fan, so I had John Lennon saying, "All we are saying is give peace a chance." Now, the idea of being peacemaker was central to my faith story and my origin story as a young person. And this concept of being a peacemaker was rooted in the Hebrew word shalom. You've all heard the word shalom. And shalom has its roots in the ideas of wholeness, of fullness, of perfection. And I was taught growing up that shalom entailed not just wanting the absence of bad things for people, but an abundance of good for them. So the making of peace wasn't just about removing obstacles to well-being for people. It was about creating a path to that well-being, ensuring it, protecting it, and yes, fighting for it. And in that phrase, "Blessed are the peacemakers," was the truth that the word blessed did not mean good things are going to happen to you. It meant that this is the best way to live. So in the story that I grew up in, that phrase, "Blessed are the peacemakers," could be restated. Those who live well are the creators of shalom for other people. But most importantly, I grew up with the idea that being a peacemaker did not mean being a pacifist. It might be. But being a peacemaker was not just about not doing something, but about doing something, about stepping into the world and altering the path of other people. But even without any religious worldview, that seems to be a good philosophy of life, doesn't it? A mindset worth attempting. It's good to make peace here while we are on this planet, to reduce suffering, to alleviate pain, to facilitate healing and health. I would guess that most of us in this room, that is what we live to do. We wake up every day trying to bring healing and to bring health and to work for justice and to bring restoration of corrupt systems, right? So the question is, how does that happen precisely? How is peace made? How is peace fostered and nurtured and protected? What is the path to peace? Now, Gandhi said, "There is no path to peace. Peace is the path." I read that on a bathroom wall one time. It's that bathroom, okay? Just so we're clear. But all the world's faith traditions and all the world's moral codes and all the world's ethics systems value the concept of peace in many forms. And I think that can help us widen our understanding of peace. Now, we're going to start with the basic place. All traditions emphasize an inner peace, right? A state of being, a space within, an internal condition where calm acceptance comes of all that is. It's a way of thinking that is not dependent on our circumstances. A freedom from striving and desires. Hinduism's Bhagavad Gita says this: "One attains peace within whose mind all desires dissipate, without creating any mental disturbance. as river waters enter the full ocean without creating any disturbance. One who desires material objects is never peaceful. One who abandons all desires and becomes free from longing and the feeling of I and my attains peace. And what I see in that statement is that's not really the way we live in America. The one who desires material objects is never at peace. I bet we're all thinking of stuff we'd like to have. Better, more, bigger. Abandoning desires and become free from longing and the feeling of I and my. And we live in a culture that says I and my is everything. But that's the path. Thich Nhat Hanh, Buddhist, says, we do so much, we run so quickly, the situation is difficult, and many people say, don't just sit there, do something. But doing more things may make the situation worse. So you should say, don't just do something, sit there. Stop. Be yourself first and begin from there. So, Hinduism says contentment is where peace is found. Thich Nhat Hanh says mindfulness helps us welcome peace, to be aware of who we are and our place in the world. So there is inner peace found in gratitude and mindfulness and rest. And while this place of internal calm, friends, is critical to seek and sustain, there are other manifestations of peace that we need to be concerned with. So we've got that inner peace. Everyone here has that taken care of, so we can move on. But then we've got interpersonal peace. It's a making of right between ourselves and others, especially in disagreement or conflict. And this peace is found in the removal of grudges, in the forgiving of transgressions, in the repairing of fractures between people. So this peace is relationally oriented. It's where we work individually with other people, where our ethics and our morals and our values are embodied. And I don't have to tell you that these relational, interpersonal places right now are besieged by civil wars of argument and aggression, and by cold wars of silence and distance. I'm not sure there are any of us here who aren't on the battle lines of these disturbed peace places, right? We're all feeling the relational fractures from our current political climate. We all have people we are estranged from or no longer as close to. So that's enough, right? Well, that's enough work, but we have more. Because we all are called to pursue a societal, communal peace. That's a larger community where justice and equity are evident, where all members of the community have what they need. That's a collective, collaborative, ever-evolving peace. And much of our activism is working to bring that kind of peace. And we define our community by our country, by our state, by our town, by our neighborhood, by our families, maybe our political affiliations. And right now, there isn't a human being in this room or watching online who doesn't feel the wars being waged right now on our black and brown neighbors, on our LGBTQ neighbors, on women. We have a peace that is being continually disrupted by people of power and of wealth who have so weaponized fear and phobia and prejudice that they have convinced tens of millions of human beings that the people around them are a danger to be protected from, a threat to be eradicated. And these people of power and wealth curate a space where war is never ending because that allows them to continue to erode our elemental freedoms and our access to opportunity while we are distracted by the manufactured emergencies and false dangers. Inner peace, interpersonal peace, and communal peace. No wonder you're tired. But then you've got environmental peace, where we exist in harmony with creation, where our responsibilities toward the earth and life upon it are important to us. and environmental peace expressed in the way we treat the water and the air and the earth and life on this planet. And as we face the reality of a rapidly warming planet, the loss of thousands of species a year, and the rollback of protections designed to care for nature, we are conscious of the war against our home, the very home that we are immersed in. And what's strange about this one is right now there are many religious people in our country who want to hasten the day that the planet ends, that Armageddon arrives, so that they can bring on the return of a Jesus who said, "Blessed are the peacemakers," and they're not doing that. And then, for good measure, let's just add a little more weight to our existential load here. This is the aspiration of world peace, an absence of war between nations, a ceasing of violence, a shalom moving throughout places where humanity resides. And as the news is saturated with the brutality in Iran, in Gaza, in Ukraine, in Cuba, in Venezuela, and Honduras, with all this war that surrounds us, with the battles we choose, with the ones we are helplessly pulled into, and the ones within us as a result, peace often feels impossible. Because it's all connected. Have you been sickened by something that you've seen on the news, even in the last 24 hours? Have you been brought to tears? Has it derailed your peace? That is the outside war creating an inner conflict in you. It's the cost of being a person of empathy in times of great cruelty. So one of the things I want to share with you today is if you are torn up about this world, if you are disheartened and angry and worried, congratulations, you are a human being doing what a human being is supposed to do. So peace, friends, is an inside job, and it's my orientation toward the world, right? It's what I think, but it's also what I do. I work to make peace in my own head, and then I work to make peace on the planet. So if you think about life that way, peace is my inner voice, and peace is my outer expression of what I value. Which comes first? Is that a chicken-egg thing? So do you live from the inside out or the outside in? Do you spend time in self-reflection, self-awareness? Do you find that inner calm and then go and work in response to it and live out of that? Or do you do all you can to do good work in the world and fight injustice and make wrongs right? And in doing so, find your mind begin to rest when you feel the agency that you have. And neither is wrong. Some of us in this room cultivate in the quiet spaces the kind of people we want to be in the world, and then we live into that. And some of us say, I've got to do something in order to feel some sense of control. So here's my question. Given all that, where are people of faith, morality, and conscience supposed to stand on days like these? What is our rightful place as human beings committed to diversity and equity and justice? For example, when we see our brown and black skinned neighbors, our Latino neighbors, our immigrant neighbors being terrorized by our leaders, and we see people we know and love supporting this violence, where is the peacemaker's place in this? Are we here to come alongside vulnerable people in acts of community and relationship building and works of charity? Or do we loudly protest those authorizing that violence? Or do we confront our family members, friends, and social media followers who support it? How do we solve this? This is the greatest pressure point for me right now. I think this is why we're all exhausted. I know that my inner peace should transcend my circumstances. But I'm sure that I can't ignore the suffering of others if I can affect it in some way. Yes, I know I should be calm in my personal storms, but I don't feel obligated to ask others to simply endure theirs, especially people of vulnerable, oppressed, marginalized communities. My peace has to be aligned with their peace. I find it difficult to be still while others are experiencing shaking. That's why you're tired. Because privilege and materialism and honestly the American dream want us to have a narcissistic view of peace. I, me, mine. Let's say who's close to me and worry about the people further away. So this is a serious question I'm asking because I don't know. Right now, does our morality and our ethics and our spirituality mean we are to be in the gaps between divided people, pulling them together? Or do we need to speak and act boldly, even if it means widening the gaps and forcing people to make a choice in what they value and how they live? Maynard Shelley says this: a call for peacemaking must also be a call for promoting worldwide economic and social justice, including respect for human rights. Violence, we know, can exist even in the absence of war. Poverty-ridden, oppressed peoples are victims of economic violence. And so peace is hollow without more equal sharing of the world's wealth and power. I want to suggest today, friends, that peace calls us to adopt many postures. So, in the name of peace, sometimes I'm going to need to be silent and still, withdraw, recalibrate, find my center. Sometimes we will need to be still in the name of peace, but sometimes we're going to need to be bold and loud and act decisively in the world so that our lives impact someone else's life. Sometimes in the name of peace, we will forgive someone. Sometimes in the name of peace, we will confront someone. And it could be the same person. The cause of peace may lead us to decrease the shaking in the world, and the cause of peace may cause us to become the shaking in the world. Because the civil rights movement and the women's movement and the movement for LGBTQ equality, it was not static. It was not made of people who just sat home and cultivated something in their heads. It was about them entering the world. So going back to those different definitions of peace, to bring relational peace with someone, I might have to have an authentic, potentially painful conversation with someone to even see if peace is truly possible. Or to bring systemic peace with nature, it might mean not only doing the small things that I can in my home and with my car and the way I travel, but I may need to boldly participate in the political systems that bring trauma to nations and to people. I may need to post something controversial on social media because peace requires discomfort. One day I'll do that. One day I'll post something controversial on social media. I have a feeling it's not going to work out too well. So, friends, it's a no-brainer. We can cultivate inner peace. Here's why. We editorialize the news. The news is what it is. We take it in, and then we decide what the headline in our heads is going to be. We walk through our communities, we look at ourselves in the mirror, and we decide what the story is. We are the co-writers of our inner monologue. Often the making of peace for those who are not experiencing it requires us to at least temporarily disturb the peace of others who are comfortable, who are hoarding opportunity or resources or a voice. This is a tension, isn't it? You're trying to have an inner story that's peaceful, but you're also dealing with a world that's at war, and so it's not easy. Dr. King says this: we make our fervent pleas for the high road of justice, and then we tread unflinchingly the low road of injustice. This strange dichotomy, this agonizing gulf between the ought and the is, represents the tragic theme of man's earthly pilgrimage. He says one of the great tragedies of life is that men, humanity, seldom bridge the gulf between practice and profession, between doing and saying. We proclaim our devotion to democracy, but we sadly practice the very opposite of the Democratic creed. We talk passionately about peace, and at the same time, we assiduously prepare for war. So, I was fortunate enough to be with a group a few years ago who was working in Texas, and we were doing a lot of work for voter engagement, but we ended up at a small church where a community of people were being welcomed to this church to have a night where they were taken care of, where they could sleep there and have a meal. And these were all families who had been in the custody of ICE. And they were coming out of that, but they were being delivered into a completely unknown situation. They had no ties to the area that we were. And my job and our job was to be at tables when they arrived. And it was pouring rain, and these people were coming in places of fear and places where they didn't know what was happening, where their when-thens were probably all over the place. And so I sat down at one of the tables, and then 4 or 5 people were brought over to my tables, and I started to have deep regrets about not paying better attention in Spanish class. Because they didn't speak English, and my interpreter hadn't arrived yet, so I began to panic. So I did something that's really probably not wise. I began speaking English louder and slower. But that didn't work. And so what I did was, there was a young girl and her father, and I just started trying to get some information from them. And his name was Hector, and her name was Angelina. And so I took out pictures on my phone, and I started showing pictures of my son and of my daughter, and I was saying that I'm a dad too. And then I started drawing, because that's something that I always love to do, and I started doodling for Angelina, and she liked the pictures, so we began doing that. And then finally the interpreter came, and we had a more normal conversation. But what I kept thinking was, Hector and Angelina are real people. Like, this was just a dad talking to another dad about their kids. And what I knew was that Hector and Angelina were going to go after this day to a world that probably filled with many people who see them as a problem, as some sort of terrible story, as some sort of threat. And I was going back to my life of relative privilege, where my kids were going to be safe, and I was okay in my own skin. And so every day I think about people like Hector and Angelina, and this is why this all matters, because peace is not just an issue that I am disconnected from. Peace is about human beings whose peace is threatened. And I cannot have peace with that. So this is where I want to leave us today, friends. In realizing the disparate ways we have to work for peace here: inner peace, interpersonal peace, communal peace, environmental peace, and world peace. The question I want you to ask yourself today is, how can I lean into areas where I am not fully participating in the peace process? Do I need to be more attentive to my inner life, to my thoughts and my patterns and my worries, so that I can reshape the lenses through which I see the world? Or do I need to be more courageous, more visible, more vocal, more involved in a way that brings me turbulence? I would like us to be individual human beings who orient themselves toward making shalom everywhere that we can, to withdraw into silence and stillness and meditation and prayer and rest, so that we can then work relationally, interpersonally, systemically, globally, to bring a larger peace. And for this community, I want us to be a community that multiplies our gifts and combines our resources and leverages our circles of influence, so that peace is not just our namesake, but our very definition as a people. I want to close with this Vedic prayer. May there be peace in the heavens, peace in the atmosphere, peace on earth. Let there be coolness in water, healing in the herbs, and peace radiating from the trees. Let there be harmony in the planets and in the stars and in perfection and eternal knowledge. May everything in the universe be at peace. Let peace pervade everything at all times. May I experience that peace in my own heart. These are times of war, all kinds. But we're the people who are built to bring peace to these times. There is no other reason to exist than to care for the world, heal for the world, love other people, and make sure others have a smoother path than we have.